Hey warriors, welcome back to the channels. You think you're in control of your emotions, but you're not. Someone says something and you're triggered. Something happens and you spiral. An old memory surfaces and suddenly you're back there, feeling weak, feeling helpless, feeling exactly like you did when that pattern was first burned into you. And here's what you haven't realized. You're trapped in a loop. The same fears showing up in different disguises, the same reactions to the same triggers. You tell yourself this time will be different, but it never is, because you're running a program that someone else installed in you years ago. This isn't bad luck. This isn't just who you are. This is architecture. Someone built a prison in your mind. Maybe it was trauma. Maybe it was the people who raised you. Maybe it was a world that needed you weak to keep you controlled. And you've been living in it so long you think the bars are part of your identity. But here's what Machiavelli understood that you're about to learn. Every emotional reaction you can't control is a door into your fortress that anyone can walk through. Every old habit that still runs you is a back door into your psychology. Every fear you haven't quarantined is a weapon someone else is holding, pointed at your head. You are not your authentic self right now. You're a collection of defense mechanisms and survival patterns that solidified into a personality. And every day you don't dismantle that false foundation, you're building your entire life on quicksand. Stay till the end, because I'm about to show you how to demolish that prison, seal every invasion point, and construct an inner fortress so impenetrable that your past can't breach it, your present can't manipulate it, and your future can't intimidate it. If you're ready to stop being a prisoner in your own mind, subscribe now, because what comes next is the blueprint for building something they can never break. Let me show you what I mean. You're at work. Your boss criticizes something you did. It's not even personal, just feedback. But something happens inside you. Your chest tightens, your face gets hot, you feel defensive, maybe even angry. And suddenly you're not a competent adult receiving constructive criticism. You're 8 years old again, standing in front of a parent who never thought you were good enough. That's the trigger. That's the invasion. And in that moment, you're not making a strategic decision about how to respond. You're running a program that says criticism equals rejection, rejection equals unworthiness, unworthiness equals danger. So you react. Maybe you get defensive and argue, maybe you shut down and withdraw, maybe you overcompensate and apologize profusely. Doesn't matter which. What matters is this: you didn't choose that response. The program chose it. And your boss? They just learned something about you. They learned where your buttons are. They learned what makes you react. They learned that criticism is a lever they can pull whenever they want a specific response from you. That's what I mean by an open door. That's what I mean by a vulnerability. You think you're just being emotional or having a bad day. But what you're actually doing is showing people exactly how to manipulate you. You're giving them the map to your internal architecture. You're showing them where the walls are weak, where the defenses are down, where they can walk right in and take control. Now, multiply that across your entire life. How many triggers do you have? How many situations make you react automatically, without thought, without choice? How many people know exactly what to say or do to make you spiral? How many old patterns are still running your present? And here's the question that should terrify you. If you're not choosing your responses, who is? The answer is whoever programmed you. Your parents, your teachers, your exes, your bullies. Every person who hurt you, every trauma you survived, every moment you felt powerless, they all installed something, a fear, a belief, a behavioral pattern. And those installations are still running. They're still in control. You think you've moved on, you think you've healed, you think you're past it, but you're not. Because the proof is in your reactions. The proof is in the fact that you're still triggered by the same things. still falling into the same patterns, still feeling the same weakness. This is what most people never understand. They think healing means feeling better. They think growth means being more positive. They think strength means pushing through. But that's not fortress building. That's putting wallpaper over cracked walls. That's pretending the foundation isn't rotting. That's decorating your prison and calling it freedom. Real transformation, the kind Machiavelli would recognize, starts with demolition. You can't build a fortress on a swamp. You can't construct something unbreakable on top of something broken. You have to clear the ground first. You have to identify every weak point, every vulnerability, every invasion route into your psychology, and systematically close them, one by one, until there's nothing left for your enemies to exploit. And make no mistake, you have enemies, not just external ones, internal ones, parts of you that are still loyal to your trauma, parts of you that are still running old survival programs, parts of you that would rather keep you small and safe than let you become powerful and exposed. These internal enemies are more dangerous than anything outside you because they speak in your voice. They use your fears. They know every weak spot because they are every weak spot. So how do you fight an enemy that lives inside you? How do you dismantle patterns that feel like identity? How do you quarantine fears that feel like common sense? You start by understanding the architecture of your prison. You start by mapping the system. Because once you see the design, once you understand the blueprint, you can start tearing it down. Let me give you the three-layer structure of your psychological prison. First layer, fear-based beliefs. These are the foundational lies you tell yourself. I'm not good enough. People will leave me. I can't handle failure. I need to be liked. These aren't truths. They're conclusions you drew from painful experiences, and then you hardwired them into your worldview. They became the lens through which you see everything. And every decision you make, every risk you avoid, every opportunity you pass up, it all flows from these core beliefs. Second layer, weakness patterns. These are the behaviors that stem from those beliefs. Procrastination because you're afraid of failure. People-pleasing because you need approval. Self-sabotage because you don't believe you deserve success. Isolation because you're scared of rejection. Each pattern is a symptom of the belief underneath it, and each pattern reinforces the belief. You procrastinate, you fail, you tell yourself, "See, I knew I wasn't good enough." Loop complete. Prison reinforced. Third layer, old habits. These are the automatic responses you've repeated so many times they don't even feel like choices anymore. You reach for your phone when you're anxious. You eat when you're stressed. You lash out when you're hurt. You withdraw when you're overwhelmed. These habits are the bars of your cell. They're the daily routines that keep you trapped in the same emotional patterns, the same behavioral loops, the same life circumstances. And the insidious thing about habits, they feel like you. They feel like personality. They feel like just how I am. But here's what you need to understand. None of this is you. This is all programming. This is all architecture someone else designed and you inherited. Your authentic self, your actual power, your real potential is buried underneath all of this. And it's been buried so long that you've forgotten it's there. You've started to believe that the prison is the person, that the patterns are the identity, that the programming is the truth. It's not. And the moment you see that, really see that, everything changes. Because once you understand that your fears are installed, your weaknesses are learned, and your habits are chosen, even if you chose them unconsciously, you realize something profound. If it was built, it can be demolished. If it was learned, it can be unlearned. If it was installed, it can be uninstalled. Machiavelli wrote, "A prince ought to have no other aim or thought, nor select anything else for his study than war and its rules and discipline." You want to know what your war is? It's this: the internal war, the battle for sovereignty over your own mind. This is the only war that matters, because if you lose this one, you lose everything else by default. But if you win this one, if you conquer your own psychology, then every external battle becomes manageable. So let's start the demolition. Let's start with fear. Not the useful kind. Not the fear that tells you not to touch a hot stove or walk into traffic. I'm talking about the parasitic fear. The fear that lives in your head and tells you stories about what might happen. The fear that keeps you from taking risks, from speaking up, from going after what you actually want. The fear that masquerades as wisdom, as caution, as being realistic. Here's how you identify it. Ask yourself, when you think about doing something that matters to you, starting a business, ending a relationship, moving to a new city, having a difficult conversation, what's the first voice that speaks up? What does it say? Chances are it's not encouraging, it's not empowering, it's catastrophizing. What if you fail? What if they reject you? What if you're not ready? What if you lose everything? That voice, that's not intuition, that's not your gut. That's your fear speaking in first person, pretending to be you. And every time you listen to it, every time you let it make your decisions, you're handing control of your life to a part of you that was designed to keep you from getting hurt, not to help you succeed. There's a difference. Survival and success require opposite strategies. Survival says, minimize risk, stay small, don't stand out, don't try. Success says, take calculated risks, expand, differentiate yourself, attempt the difficult. Your fear doesn't want you to succeed, it wants you to survive. And in the modern world, those two goals are in direct conflict. Because the things that kept you safe as a child, staying quiet, not making waves, seeking approval, avoiding conflict, those are the exact things that keep you powerless as an adult. The strategies that protected you then are the strategies that imprison you now. So how do you detach from fear? Not by eliminating it. You can't eliminate fear. It's hardwired. It's biological. But you can quarantine it. You can build walls around it so it can't spread. You can create distance between the fear and the decision maker. Here's how. First, name it. Stop letting fear speak in your voice. When that catastrophizing starts, don't think, I'm scared of failing. Think, fear is telling me a story about failure. See the difference? One is identity. The other is observation. One makes you the fear. The other makes fear something you're witnessing. And once you're witnessing it, you're already separate from it. You're already outside the cell. Second, interrogate it. Fear lies. Constantly. It takes a 1% possibility and presents it as a 99% certainty. So when fear says, you'll fail, ask, will I or might I? When fear says, they'll reject you, ask, will they or could they? When fear says, you can't handle this, ask, can't I? Or haven't I handled worse? Make fear prove its case. Make it show evidence. And watch how quickly it falls apart when you actually examine it instead of just believing it. Third, act anyway. This is critical. You don't wait for the fear to go away before you act. You act while the fear is still there. Because action is what breaks the pattern. Action is what proves to your nervous system that the fear was lying. Every time you do the thing you're afraid of and survive it, you weaken the fear's hold. Every time you take the risk and it doesn't destroy you, you dismantle a piece of the prison. This is exposure therapy applied to life. You systematically expose yourself to the things that trigger fear, and you prove, through lived experience, that the fear was wrong. And here's what most people miss. You don't need courage to do this. Courage is overrated. Courage is waiting until you feel brave enough, strong enough, ready enough. You'll be waiting forever. What you need is discipline. Discipline is doing it even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is acting in spite of the fear, not in the absence of it. Discipline is choosing the outcome you want over the feeling you have. Now let's talk about weakness. And I need you to understand something. Weakness is not the opposite of strength. Weakness is unexamined strength. Let me explain. Every weakness you have was once a strength. Every defense mechanism that's now holding you back once protected you. People-pleasing. That kept you safe in an environment where conflict was dangerous. Avoidance? That protected you from situations you weren't equipped to handle. Perfectionism? That gave you control when everything else felt chaotic. These weren't weaknesses when you developed them. They were adaptations, they were survival strategies, they worked. The problem is, you're not in that environment anymore. You're not that powerless anymore. You're not in survival mode anymore, or at least you shouldn't be. But the strategies are still running, the patterns are still active, and what once protected you is now limiting you. So how do you address weakness? You don't shame it, you don't try to fix it through force. You honor what it was, and then you consciously choose to evolve beyond it. You say, "Thank you for keeping me safe when I needed it. But I don't need this anymore. I'm building something different now." Let me give you a real example. Say you're someone who struggles with confrontation. Someone disrespects you and you say nothing. Someone crosses a boundary and you let it slide. Someone takes advantage of you and you make excuses for them. This is a pattern. And if you're honest, you know where it comes from. Maybe you grew up in a house where speaking up got you punished. Maybe you learned that keeping the peace was safer than defending yourself. Maybe you witnessed conflict that was so destructive, you decided to never engage in it yourself. That pattern served you. It kept you out of danger. But now it's making you a doormat. Now it's making people lose respect for you. Now it's creating a life where you're constantly accommodating others at your own expense. The weakness isn't that you avoid confrontation. The weakness is that you haven't updated the strategy. You haven't evolved the response. You're still operating from a childhood survival program in an adult reality. So here's the evolution. You start small. You start practicing micro-confrontations. Someone cuts you in line. You say something. Someone interrupts you. You interrupt back and finish your thought. Someone makes a joke at your expense. You don't laugh. You look at them and say, "Why would you say that?" These are low-stakes situations, but they're training ground. You're reconditioning your nervous system. You're teaching yourself that confrontation doesn't equal danger, that boundaries don't equal conflict, that standing up for yourself doesn't mean the world ends. And with each micro-confrontation, you survive, you build evidence. Evidence that the old program was wrong. Evidence that you can handle conflict. Evidence that people actually respect you more when you have standards. And slowly, that evidence overwrites the old programming. The pattern starts to dissolve. The weakness starts to transform back into strength. Conscious strength this time, chosen strength, strategic strength. Now let's address old habits. This is where most people get stuck, because habits are invisible. They're automatic. They're the water you swim in. You don't even notice them until someone points them out. And even when you notice them, breaking them feels impossible. Because habits aren't just behaviors. They're neural pathways. They're grooves carved into your brain through repetition. And every time you repeat the habit, you deepen the groove. So how do you break a groove that's been carved for years, maybe decades? You don't. You can't erase it. But you can build a new one next to it. You can create a competing pathway. And if you use that new pathway consistently enough, it becomes the default. The old groove is still there, but it's overgrown. It's neglected. It's not the path your brain automatically takes anymore. Here's the framework. Every habit has three components: trigger, routine, reward. Something triggers the habit. You execute the routine, you get a reward. The reward is usually emotional, relief from stress, distraction from discomfort, a hit of dopamine, a sense of control. And the more you repeat this loop, the more automatic it becomes. Eventually the trigger fires and the routine executes before you even consciously register what's happening. So you can't just stop the routine. If you try to white-knuckle it, to force yourself not to do the habit, you're fighting your own neurology. You'll lose. What you have to do is hijack the loop. Keep the trigger. Keep the reward. Change the routine. Example. Let's say you have a habit of scrolling social media when you're anxious. Trigger. Anxiety. Routine. Scroll phone. Reward. Temporary distraction from the anxiety. If you try to just stop scrolling, what happens? The anxiety is still there. The trigger is still active. Your brain is still demanding the reward, so you'll find another distraction: food, TV, shopping, whatever. You haven't broken the pattern. You've just swapped one escape for another. But what if you change the routine to something that actually addresses the trigger? Trigger, anxiety. New routine. Breathwork, movement, journaling. Reward, actual relief from anxiety, not just distraction. Now you're building a new pathway, a pathway that serves you instead of sabotaging you. And every time you choose the new routine instead of the old one, you're strengthening that pathway and weakening the old one. This is neuroplasticity. This is how you rewire your brain, not through force, through repetition of better choices. But here's the part nobody tells you. You have to be willing to sit in discomfort. The old routine worked because it was efficient at giving you the reward. The new routine is slower. It's less satisfying at first. It requires more effort. And your brain hates that. Your brain wants the quick hit, the instant relief, the path of least resistance. So when you start changing habits, there's a period where it feels worse before it feels better. A period where you're craving the old routine and the new one doesn't feel rewarding yet. This is the valley. This is the gap between who you were and who you're becoming. And most people turn back here. They decide the discomfort isn't worth it. They tell themselves the old way wasn't that bad. They rationalize going back to the pattern. Don't do that. Because on the other side of this valley is freedom. On the other side of this discomfort is a version of you that's no longer controlled by impulses, triggers, or patterns you didn't choose. If this is resonating, if you're seeing your own patterns in what I'm describing, hit that like button. Now let me show you what happens when you actually do this work. When you systematically detach from fear, dismantle weakness, and break old habits, you start to notice something. People treat you differently, not because you told them to, not because you demanded respect, but because your energy changed. You're not reactive anymore. You're not predictable anymore. You're not controlled by the same buttons that used to set you off. Someone tries to manipulate you with guilt? It doesn't land. You see it, you recognize the tactic, and you don't engage. Someone tries to trigger your insecurity? There's nothing to trigger. You've sealed that door. You've quarantined that fear. Someone tries to pull you back into an old pattern? You don't bite. Because you're not running that program anymore. You deleted it. This is what I mean by an inner fortress. It's not about becoming emotionless. It's not about being cold or distant or shut down. It's about creating psychological architecture where you control what gets in, where you decide what affects you, where you're the gatekeeper of your own emotional state. And when you reach that point, you become dangerous. Not because you're aggressive, because you're unmanipulatable. Think about it. What makes someone easy to control? Predictable reactions, known vulnerabilities, emotional buttons that can be pushed. But what happens when none of that works anymore? What happens when someone tries to make you feel guilty and you just don't? When someone tries to scare you and you're unmoved? When someone tries to pull you into drama and you simply observe it without participating? They lose their power over you. And more importantly, they realize they've lost it. They realize you're not the same person you were. They realize the tactics that used to work don't work anymore. And they have two choices: evolve with you or eliminate themselves from your life. Either way, you win. But here's where it gets interesting. When you build this fortress, when you become this unshakable, something unexpected happens. People are attracted to it. Not everyone. The manipulators, the energy vampires, the people who need you weak to feel strong, they'll leave. Good. Let them. But the people who are also doing this work, the people who are also building fortresses, the people who respect strength and recognize it in others, they'll gravitate toward you. Because like attracts like. And when two fortress builders come together, whether in friendship, romance, or business, the dynamic is completely different. There's no manipulation. There's no game playing. There's no fear-based attachment. There's mutual respect, mutual strength, mutual growth. These are the relationships worth having. These are the connections that elevate instead of drain. But you'll never attract these people if you're still living in your prison. You'll never build these connections if you're still running old programs and being controlled by unexamined patterns. You'll attract what you are, not what you want. So if you want high-value relationships, you have to become high-value first. And high-value starts with internal sovereignty. Machiavelli said, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command." But before you can command others, you have to command yourself. Before you can lead an empire, you have to conquer your internal chaos. This is the prerequisite for all power. This is the foundation everything else is built on. And here's the part that separates people who transform from people who stay stuck. Willingness to destroy their current identity. Because that's what this requires. You can't build a fortress while living in a prison. You can't become the new version while clinging to the old one. You have to be willing to demolish who you are now to become who you're capable of being. And that's terrifying, because even though your current self is limited, it's familiar. Even though your patterns are sabotaging you, they're predictable. Even though your prison is confining, it's comfortable. There's safety in the known, even when the known is painful. This is why most people never change. Not because they can't, because they won't. Because the uncertainty of transformation feels more dangerous than the certainty of suffering. Don't be most people. Be willing to burn it down. Be willing to question everything you thought was true about yourself. Be willing to look at your beliefs and ask, is this actually true? Or is this something I concluded from trauma and then reinforced through repetition? Be willing to look at your patterns and ask, is this serving me or is this running me? Be willing to look at your habits and ask, is this who I want to be or is this who I became through unconscious conditioning? And when you find the answer, when you realize how much of who you are is programming, not choice, don't be devastated. Be liberated, because programming can be rewritten, patterns can be broken, habits can be changed. You are not fixed, you are not permanent, you are not just the way you are. You are software, not hardware, and software can be updated. Here's your process. 3 phases: demolition, construction, fortification. Phase 1, demolition. Identify every fear-based belief that's running your life. Write them down. I'm not good enough. People will abandon me. I'll fail if I try. Whatever they are. Then interrogate each one. Where did this come from? Is there actual evidence for it, or is it a conclusion I drew from limited experiences? What would my life look like if this wasn't true? This is painful work. You're going to uncover things you buried. You're going to face truths you've been avoiding. Do it anyway, because you can't demolish what you won't acknowledge. Next, identify your weakness patterns. What behaviors are you stuck in? Where do you consistently sabotage yourself? Where do you consistently give your power away? Map these. See the connections between the beliefs and the behaviors. Understand that the behaviors are symptoms. You're not addressing symptoms anymore. You're going after the root. Then identify your old habits, the automatic routines, the things you do without thinking, the responses that fire before you even decide. Name them, track them, Notice what triggers them. Notice what reward they're giving you. This is reconnaissance. You're studying the architecture of your prison so you can systematically dismantle it. Phase 2. Construction. Now you build the new. For every fear-based belief, create a counter-belief based on evidence, not positive thinking. Evidence. If you believe I'm not good enough, find evidence of times you were. Build a case against the old belief with facts from your own life. If you believe people will abandon me, find evidence of people who've stayed. If you believe I'll fail if I try, find evidence of times you tried and succeeded. You're not lying to yourself, you're correcting the lie you've been telling yourself. For every weakness pattern, design a new response. If you people please, practice saying no in low-stakes situations. If you avoid confrontation, practice micro-confrontations. If you self-sabotage, create systems that make sabotage harder and success easier. You're building new pathways, new defaults, new automated responses that serve you instead of sabotage you. For every old habit, create a replacement routine. Remember, trigger, routine, reward. Keep the trigger and reward. Change the routine to something that actually serves you, and then repeat the new routine until it becomes automatic, until the new groove is deeper than the old one. Phase 3. Fortification. This is where you seal the walls. This is where you create protocols for when someone tries to breach your fortress. What do you do when someone tries to trigger your old fear? You have a response ready. You've practiced it. You don't react. You respond according to protocol. What do you do when you feel the pull of an old pattern? You have a circuit breaker, a pause button, a moment of awareness before the pattern executes. You create rules for what you allow into your fortress. Not everyone gets access. Not every opinion matters. Not every emotion is valid. You become selective, protective, discerning. You understand that your inner world is valuable territory, and you don't let just anyone walk through it. And you maintain the fortress, because this isn't a one-time project. This is a lifestyle. You're always monitoring for new vulnerabilities, always strengthening weak points, always evolving the defense, because your enemies evolve too. New fears will emerge. New patterns will try to establish themselves. New habits will attempt to take root. But now you have the skills. Now you have the awareness. Now you know how to catch them early and eliminate them before they become entrenched. This is what it means to build an inner fortress. This is what Machiavelli understood about power. It's not something you achieve once and keep forever. It's something you build, maintain, and defend constantly. It's a war that never ends. But it's a war you can win, battle by battle, choice by choice, pattern by pattern. And here's what you need to understand about this journey. Nobody else can do it for you. Not a therapist, not a coach, not a partner, not a guru. They can give you tools, they can give you frameworks, they can give you support. But the actual work, the demolition, the construction, the fortification, that's yours alone. This is the loneliest work you'll ever do, because it's internal, it's invisible. Nobody sees the battles you're fighting in your own head. Nobody witnesses the moments you choose the new response over the old pattern. Nobody knows the discipline it takes to sit in discomfort instead of running to the familiar escape. But that's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it real. Because when you transform yourself alone, in the dark, with no audience, with no external validation, you know it's authentic. You know it's yours. You know that this strength isn't performed. It's built, it's earned, it's real. And when you emerge from that work, when you come out the other side with your fortress built, your patterns broken, your fears quarantined, you're a different person. Not because you changed your circumstances, because you changed yourself. And when you change yourself, circumstances change automatically. Because you're not interacting with the world from weakness anymore. You're not reacting from fear. You're not operating from old programming. You're making conscious choices, strategic choices, choices aligned with who you actually want to be, not who you were conditioned to be. And that changes everything. The job you settle for versus the career you build, the relationships you tolerate versus the connections you cultivate, the life you accept versus the life you create. This is the difference between people who drift through life wondering why nothing changes and people who architect their reality. The difference is internal, always internal. The external world is just a reflection of your internal architecture. If your internal world is chaos, your external world will be chaos. If your internal world is a prison, your external world will reflect that limitation. But if your internal world is a fortress, strong, defended, sovereign, your external world will reflect that power. So let me ask you, what are you building? Are you still decorating your prison and calling it progress? Are you still running programs someone else installed and calling it personality? Are you still reacting from fear and calling it intuition? Or are you ready to do the actual work? Are you ready to demolish the false foundation and build something real? Are you ready to become the architect of your own psychology instead of a prisoner of your past? Because the tools are here, the framework is clear, the path is laid out. What's missing isn't information. What's missing is decision. The decision to stop accepting your current state as permanent. The decision to stop blaming your circumstances for your limitations. The decision to take full responsibility for the architecture of your mind and consciously redesign it. This isn't easy work. If it were easy, everyone would do it. If it were comfortable, it wouldn't require courage. If it were quick, it wouldn't be valuable. But it's possible. It's absolutely possible, and it's the most important work you'll ever do, because everything else in your life flows from this. Your relationships, your career, your health, your happiness, all of it is downstream from your internal architecture. Build a prison, live in a prison. Build a fortress, live in power. It's that simple. Not easy, but simple. And simple is what you need right now, not another theory. Not another concept, not another inspiring speech. You need a clear directive. Demolish the old, build the new, defend it ruthlessly. If you're committed to building this fortress, subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is just the beginning. Drop a comment telling me which pattern you're demolishing first. And share this with someone who's still living in a prison they don't even know exists. They need to see this. You're not here by accident. You're not watching this because YouTube's algorithm randomly suggested it. You're here because some part of you, the part that's still free, the part that hasn't been fully programmed, the part that remembers what it feels like to be sovereign, that part knows you're ready. That part knows you're capable. That part knows you've been living small for too long, and it's time to break out. Listen to that part. Trust that part. Follow that part. Because that's your authentic self. That's the person underneath all the conditioning, all the programming, all the patterns. That's the person who's been waiting for you to remember them. That's the person who's capable of building a fortress so strong that nothing can break it. And when you build that fortress, when you become unshakable, when you reach that point where fear can't invade, weakness can't sabotage, and old habits can't control, you'll look back at who you are right now and barely recognize them. You'll see how small you were thinking, how limited you were believing, how controlled you were living, and you'll feel gratitude, not regret. Gratitude, because that version of you, the one watching this right now, had the courage to admit they were in a prison and the discipline to start tearing it down. That's you, right now, making that choice, taking that step. Starting that journey. And I'm telling you, everything you want is on the other side of this work. Everything you're capable of is on the other side of these patterns. Everything you're meant to become is on the other side of this fortress. So build it, brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day. Build it until it's unbreakable. Build it until you're untouchable. Build it until you're free. That's the Machiavellian way. That's the path to power. That's how you win the only war that matters, the war for your own mind.